back in South Africa, we didn't have enough product to sustain ourselves, and being a professional fishing guide there was no industry in South Africa, so nobody was willing to pay money to someone else to take them fishing. It wasn't a known thing. It wasn't like out in the US or in Europe where it was a common thing and the industry had been created. So it was very difficult for us. We'd just come out of university and we were living from hand to mouth. We were really hoping that we were going to find a fishery in northern Mozambique, but we didn't find any fish on flats. Mozambique had just come out of a 20 or 30-year civil war. It was a very poor country, and a lot of the flats had been netted extensively. Then, like in the mid-90s, we did a bunch of trips flying up to a place called Pemba. There's an archipelago of islands there called the Quirimbas, which is spectacularly beautiful. And we spent a bunch of time up there, hoping that we'll find fish. And sadly, it was the same story as the rest of the east coast of Africa. That there were a lot of people living off the ocean and a lot of fishermen around dragging nets. We really needed something special. We were aware of what's happening in the Seychelles and that there was a fishery there, but very little had really been known about it. Very few people had been, and the remote outer atolls hadn't been explored at all. And by chance, we got this opportunity to go on this 2.5-month exploratory expedition to sail from Mahe to Madagascar. And in the process, visit every one of the outer atolls of the Seychelles. We fished the inner islands, we fished the Almirantes, we fished the Farquhar group. As you make your way down from the Almirantes and you come down, the first one that you're going to hit is Providence. And we came in on the eastern side of the atoll, the northeastern side of the atoll, on this big old wooden scooter. It looked like a pirate ship. Pulled in there. And we just found the most incredible fishing that we could ever dream of. We were walking down the edge of the island. We started wading out to the reef. And we caught maybe a dozen GTs and some massive bluefins. And we realized, listen, there's something here. That this fishery was there, and we went, and what we found then completely blew us away. It's so difficult. What do you need to set up an operation there? You need to be a little bit stupid and have a massive sense of adventure and have a bunch of stupid-ass clients willing to go and do it. Say, yeah, we're in, we're going to see what we find there. Okay, we've just landed on Farquhar after a 2-hour flight from Mahe, and I've spoken to the boys that's just left, that's just gone out, and they had some very good fishing. I spoke to Keith, they had some permits, some big GTs, some bonefish, some triggerfish, some basically of everything that they wanted. Suddenly we sat with a business which went from we don't really know what we're going to do with ourselves to now I don't really know how we're going to handle it. And the phone is ringing off the hook. I've got emails streaming into my inbox from agents and anglers from all over the world who want to come fish there, when the material started filtering out.
We're nearing the end of our 2000 and our early 2009 Indian Ocean season, running both operations, Cosmolido and Providence, both of which had gone extremely well for the last 3 years. You know, they were the saltwater destinations people wanted to fish, and for good reason. Obviously, the last week is a week that, you know, after a long season, clients are ecstatic to be on board. We were excited because we had a group that were down the line potentially going to be, you know, very, you know, we're going to fish with us a lot. But at the same time, we could sense that the crew of the boat had a very, very tough and long season. They're dealing with a lot of back-end issues, which, to be honest, the guides and the clients are not aware of a lot of the time. The captain itself, Francis, is an extremely calm, but calm and relaxed person. You get to know somebody on a boat when you spend that sort of time with them, especially in a place which, you know, every day you're facing potential threats from weather. You know, it's the middle of nowhere, so the smallest thing can turn into a big thing. So you get to pick up when somebody is apprehensive, and I've never seen him more apprehensive as, you know, on that final trip.
There was something weird was going on that week. I don't know if the guys knew if there were reports of piracy in the area and they were just on edge, but Captain Ruku's behavior the whole week was, he wasn't off, but I mean, I'd known this guy for a lot of time, and there was something wasn't in place.
The presence of European warships off the coast of Somalia is sending pirates east, here to the Seychelles, willing to risk capture or even death for a cut of this lucrative business. Nazanin Bashiri, Al Jazeera, Mahi, in the Seychelles.
The fishery itself for the week was unlike it normally is. I don't think that's got anything to do with it, but it just didn't feel right. Like nothing felt right. The GTs weren't playing along. We had slick, calm weather for 6.5 days, which it was, you know, just unheard of. You know, obviously you get nice weather, but not 6.5 days of this flat, still water where finding fish becomes challenging.
We'd never seen it like that. We'd never, ever seen it like that. It was like a stew pond out there. It was just, everything was just like flat, and calm, and no wind blowing. And the ocean was this deep blue color, and everything was just a little bit out of place. And, you know, like I said, it's easy to say now that, you know, all the signs were there, but it's impossible at the time to identify them.
The evening before, I remember crossing back from Cosmolido through to Assumption and seeing two sets of boat lights or two sets of lights. And I asked one of the crew members, you know, what's going on there?
We did see boats, you know, it wasn't a unique occurrence. You know, you see like these lights on the horizon, and who knows who they were or what they were. But it's always like in the back of your head afterwards, you're like, shit, you know, who was that? Or what was that all about?
You know, it's a long way from most places, and although you see a couple of boats during the season, it was weird to see two on one particular evening.
We weren't worried about pirates. We were always like, no, we're way too far from the coast of Somalia. We're way too far. But clearly we weren't way too far.
when they came on board, they asked me, where are the guests? I said, there's no guests on board. It is a tourism. He said, tourism. Is that a tourism boat? I said, yeah, yes. Where's tourism? Where's tourism? I said, there's none on board. They went down, have a look in all the cabins. They thought that the clients were on board, and then very lucky, they were not. I don't know where they got all the info, but they knew that we were there. They knew that we have clients with us, and for them, it would be big money for them. I was lucky that the 11 guests has gone. There's only 7 of us, of the crew, on board. That's the first thing I was thinking of. And I said to myself that, and all the crew after a while to say, oh, God is with us. The crew, the guests, they already disembarked and they're already on Mahe, and that's good.
Being the last week of the season, when we flown out now, we're flying back to Mahe, then those guys turn around, and it's like about I think a 3-day cruise for them to get back to Mahe, to get back home, and they were like anxious to go. And we got all the guests on the plane and we took off, and I was sitting on the port side, and I was looking out the window, and I could see the ocean was just flat, and the Indian Ocean Explorer was already off its mooring, heading back to Mahe, which was weird because I remember thinking to myself, but you know, these guys are really in a hurry to get out of here. You know, we'd literally just taken off. And I remember like looking out, and I could see this perfect white wake that the Explorer was leaving in this deep, like emerald blue ocean with no wind on it. It was picture perfect, and the boat went.
At that time, anchor was up, and we started steaming around the island, and the plane flew over us. And I said to my guys, look at that. These people on the plane, they're going to take 2.5 or 3 hours to get to Mahe, and we're going to take 3 days to get back to Mahe. And that time, we didn't take 3 days. It took 3 months to get back home because of the pirates. I didn't have the feeling before we left Mahe. That's my feeling was there before we left Mahe. Because normally, when we were in Cosmolido, I take the big ship, the mothership, Indian Ocean Explorer, round in the lagoon, which just was easier for the anglers to go fishing. And that time, Gerhard asked me several times, why don't you go in the middle of the lagoon? It's easier for you. I said, no, Gerhard. Take the dinghies. Let's go in the dinghies. We have fuel. Because I knew there will be something wrong will happen. I didn't think about the pirates. I thought maybe we're going to run aground or something. There was something wrong. I knew that there was something wrong going to happen with us, but I didn't think about the pirates. I thought that maybe we can go aground or an accident on board, something like that. But in the end, all the guests gone, and it was us with the pirates. That was my first thought. What would happen to the tourism industry in the Seychelles if we caught a tourist? And they take me the phone calls from Somalia to show them. They try to threaten me, shot over my head and everything. They said, no, there's no ship. We are the only ship here. There's the only one. There's no more. The bad weather is coming. We have to go home now, and just let us go home because there's nobody with us. I said, no. And they took us to Somalia.
At that time, the weather had just been really good. You know, those guys in their crappy little 20-foot pangas could just get those couple 100 miles extra away from the east coast of Africa, something which maybe they wouldn't normally reach because the weather is too bad. So it all just kind of, the stars just aligned, and it happened.
It was obviously extremely scary knowing your friends had been taken and not sure what the outcome would be.
When we got to Somalia, the chief pirates came on board and they told me, okay, they're going to ask a ransom of $4 million. I said, what? $4 million? He said, yeah. I said, but this ship doesn't cost. This ship will cost only $300,000. How can you ask $4 million?
Cécélois, Francis Roucou, Georges Bijou, Patrick Dayer, Robin Songbois, Stephen Stravens, Robert Niken et Georges Guichard, Tigray prend otage dans la mer Seychelles par pirates somaliens.
Thankfully, all of them were returned unharmed, which was a huge bonus, especially in a volatile situation as that neck of the woods is. There's no guarantees, So as we found out, as the boat was sunk.
It'll be the first time that we're heading back, and I don't know what we're gonna find. It was almost easier going there the first time, because the first time when we went there, I had no expectations, I had no preconceived ideas. It just bowled me over. So now we've got this pressure on us. What are we going to find? Is it going to be the same? I'm sure it's going to be the same, but it's going to be different. These atolls are like rivers. They're living things. They change all the time. Cyclones come through, and their moods change, and little things change. Sandbars move, little channels move, and the behavior of the fish will change a little bit. So it's definitely, I don't expect to find it the way that we left it. I don't know exactly what we're going to see, but I'm 100% confident that we will see some pretty funky stuff. And there's going to be some really exciting things which we'll see. And we're going to catch a bunch of awesome fish. The context that it's going to be in, I don't know whether it's going to be shoals of tailing GTs or 6 or 7 foot barracudas or huge pods of bumphead parrotfish or double figure bonefish, I don't know, but we'll see some of it. And I'm ready for it. I've been waiting for many years to go back.
I was certainly born into the outdoors and fly fishing industry. My parents have a operation up in Alaska that they've been running for several years. Was raised around it my entire childhood, been there ever since. I was born in '89, so I spent my very first summer up there when I was 6 months old. And I haven't seen pictures of this, but apparently I slept in a cardboard box next to the wood stove in the dining tent, which was a wall tent. I was the only kid up there, so I really had to learn how to entertain myself, and I did. Of course, always went fishing. Fishing has been, it sounds cliche to say it, but I feel like it's always just been in my blood from the very beginning. I've always had this attraction to it. My parents' camp is on the very upper reaches of the Nushagak River in Bristol Bay, Alaska. It's actually it's right at 200 river miles from the mouth of the Noosh. So they bring up 6 to 8 clients per week, or anglers per week. They operate by jet boats. We've got some motors up there that have been up there for longer than I have. I mean, they're probably over 30-some years old, and they're still running. And flat-bottom jet boats, 16 feet long, and you just cruise up and down the rivers and fish different sections each day. I continued to go up there all the way through middle school and high school, and once I turned 18, I started guiding for them, and did that for about 7 years. I've always been drawn to travel, and I think it really has to do with the fact that a lot of the people that we had come through that camp were travelers themselves. You know, throughout the years of growing up, being around the campfire, there's always a lot of stories that are told. And being able to sit there and listen to their stories about catching tigerfish out of the Zambezi or, you know, some other crazy destination, it was very, very hypnotizing for me. Like, I just soaked it all in. So when G came to Montana to visit, we went fishing for a couple days. You know, G is one of these people that has traveled and fished all over the Indian Ocean. Hearing him being so excited and enthusiastic and just basically jacked up about Providence and this whole experience opened my eyes a little bit. Having him here in Montana to kind of go through all that with me really got me excited for the trip. Providence was a complete mystery to me, and I went and started doing some research online and kind of came up with, you know, the Providence and where it was on the globe. And, you know, knowing me, the thing that grabbed me the most was the fishing aspect of it. And the stories and, you know, how they described GTs and how GTs ate and how many of them there were, and then all the other different species that were to be found there. You know, Indo-Pacific permit, bonefish, of course. Then you have these Napoleon wrasse and bumphead parrotfish and all these weird groupers and bohars and all these different species that I had never really heard of before. And so, you know, a lot of what I thought about with this whole trip was just the fishing aspect of it. You know, the pirates are difficult to ignore, so I did my research on that and pretty much freaked myself out. But hearing his stories also about how the Coast Guard and how all these, you know, I guess military ships and everything have been kind of handling the issues of the pirates and dealing with it and have kind of got it under control really kind of put me at ease a bit. At the same time, you know, I had this little thing in the background that was kind of putting a wrench in my plans, and that was school. I had probably about a year left to finish, and if I were to go and do this project, that would put me back another year, well, probably about half a year before I graduated. And after a lot of serious thought and discussing it with, you know, family and friends and kind of going back and forth with the pros and cons and things, I finally replied to G and told him that I was in. I can always go back to school. From Mahe, we'll begin our journey southwest to Providence, following a very similar course that G took when he went down here in 2003. We'll be crossing more than 700 kilometers of open water while cruising at about 8 knots, which means the journey will take about 3 days. We'll have a few days to prepare gear, rig rods, explore the boat, and get to know the crew, including Fly Castaway's head guide, Tim Babich, another South African that I've been hearing about for years. Being out here in the middle of the Indian Ocean, I couldn't help but think about what Captain Raku and his crew endured during their 88 days of captivity.
those pirates, they took us, me and another guy, they took us on shore. And that was the worst part of the captive. When we were ashore, we didn't get any bed, there was no house, anything. We slept just under the tree or just like that, all our days on shore. And while I was ashore, I was just under the tree, and I don't know, there was someone or it was just told to me, you will be okay. I don't know who told me that, but just someone told me that. I don't know, just under the tree. Mm-hmm. And when I go back to the ship, I told the crew, guys, we're going to stay here for some time. Nobody will be hurt. Everybody, all of us will be back in Seychelles, but the ship will not go with us. The ship will say, we stay here as well. I didn't know how, why, I don't know. But I think I told them the ship will stay here, but we will go. And it was true. After the 88 days, we took the plane from Somalia to here, and the ship stayed in Somalia.
Before we got on our ship to start our voyage, we went to the Coast Guard there based in Mahe, and we met up with some of the personnel and the individuals that were kind of the front runners in combating the piracy problem within the Seychelles. So they took us around and they showed us all the old pirate motherships and some of their little, I guess, attack vessels that they had. And what really struck me about all that was the amount of desperation that these people were in order for them to get in that little boat and, know that they probably won't come back from is pretty staggering. I mean, that really puts it into perspective for me. I mean, these people were doing this to provide for families. This was a business to them. And they were willing to put their lives at risk to go and hijack some ship somewhere.
I'm not worried. We are cruising all over the place, and there's simply no reports of any cruise ships, any merchant ship, any local government or international forces about pirate activity in the region. So we are still required with taking security guards on board, because if something happens, it will affect the whole economy of tourism in Seychelles.
If you ask me the piracy threat today, I would say it's around maybe 1% or even less than 1%, because there's no activities around Seychelles, no activities around Somalia, the coast of Somalia. We don't know what will happen next, but for now, I would say less than 1%.
From time to time, we did see boats. So you see like these lights on the horizon, and who knows who they were or what they were. But it's always like in the back of your head off to it. You're like, who was that? Or what was that all about?
It's weird to be back here. When we came here for the first time, we didn't have satellite imagery like we have now. We had a map which was drawn up, or a map which was based on the work that I think the Cook expedition did like in the late 1800s, somewhere around there. I can't remember the exact details, but that's all that we had. And Google Earth didn't exist in those days, and then when Google Earth did come around, the imagery of the atoll was really bad. We couldn't see any details, and it was only after, once the piracy happened and we had to stop operating here, that the imagery was updated. So we've literally been looking at this on Google Earth for the last 6 years, dreaming about going back, and now we're here. So now this morning we're going to go and fish it.
I look upon your eyes and pray. Stay until the night. You give me fever, I cannot wait. Stay by my side, I won't let you go away. Stay until the night. Well, I got my feet on the ground, and I got my head on the sun. Well, I got my feet on the ground. Won't you let me sing it?
When we realized that there's a fishery in the Seychelles and that there's bonefish, because bonefish was really the thing that drove it. If we could get bonefish, then we can get the international market interested. And then we started buying books on the Seychelles to see how many islands there really are, because you couldn't just go and zoom in and say, oh, here's a little landmass, let's check this out. What does this look like? And oh, here's a cut and here's a pass, maybe we should go and fish this. Get the GPS coordinates and off you go. The atoll is about 50 kilometers long, so say about 35, 40 miles, I'm not sure exactly what it is, in miles. And there's a landmass in the north called Providence, and there's a little landmass in the south called Surf. And when you're midway, so you're like halfway between those and some of the flats, and you look around you, 360 degrees around you, there's not a single point of reference except for the mothership that you stay on. That's the only thing that you can see on the horizon. There's not a single piece of land that sticks out. So it's very difficult to find your way around it, whereas a lot of the other atolls where we explored, you've at least, you've got an island somewhere and you've got another island over there, and kind of like between these, or it's like a reference point. And here, essentially, you are standing in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
This area here is known for GTs, especially on these big tides that we are now, and they fish well on pushing tides and on falling tides, which is really nice. So hopefully we'll see a couple of big ones here.
Oh, you missed the fly. Can you believe it? Nice size fish too. Yeah, I suppose you don't get them all. Awesome to see though. Yeah. Came right out of the water to get that one. Fish was in the way. Big fish too. I saw that thing from a long way away. I thought that was game on. It's still hanging around here. We might get another go. Come on. Countless things run through your mind. Was it stripped? Did I strip too soon? Did I strip too fast? Not fast enough. Should have waited. Oh, so many things. That's why I love it. You never really fully understand what's going on with these fish. As much as you think you got it, you don't. Every day is a surprise. 2-0 to the fish.
She fishes very well. Very, very, very well.
I just stood and watched her for a while, and that fish that she hooked, I mean, it came up, ate the fly next to her, she missed it, threw it back down,
and the fish just broke it. He just like instinctively just like slapped it down in front of it and just did this with the rod and got the eat.
It was awesome. I was just like standing there watching TV.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's another one. There's another one. Awesome.
Yeah. I had so many rejections and refusals, and
yeah.
I actually need to strap some flies.
Yeah, I also had a bit of bad luck, but it's all good fun.
Yes. Yeah, at least it wasn't on a big fish.
No.
If it was big fish, then I'd be bleak. But I mean, on those small fish, it doesn't make a difference.
It's cool just to get them to have a look. But that tide was just rushing in, and you were isolated, and I saw you out in the distance, and I saw Camille out the distance. So I got her to come over because
I did get a bit of a scrook at one stage because I was standing on the edge, and it's easier walking down because I'm walking with the current.
Yeah.
And then I'm like standing there, literally right on the edge, and I'm like, oh, I've got to go back. And I turn around and I start walking into the current.
You gotta be so careful.
I had to swim across that little channel to get to the other side. Yeah, and then as I go across the channel, I look and I see, oh, you've just taken the high route. You just walked around.
I don't know what you did. I walked up to the channel and you said, yeah, you saw a big shark. And I'm looking at the channel. I'm like, pretty conducive for big sharks.
Yeah.
And I looked to the right and I'm like, no, I'll just walk around. And both of you swam through the channel, you and Camille. I was like, no, I'm not up for
But it wasn't that wide. I literally had to swim for like maybe 2 meters or 3 meters.
I took the long way around, the dry way around.
The clever way around.
there's a lot of times where people will say to you, oh, we're going to go to this place and we're going to fish it, and no one goes there, or no one has ever been there before. But that really is a bold statement, because there's a lot of people on the planet and they get around, you know. But this place, I can tell you with 100% honesty, and I believe this, that there's places on Providence where we've walked where no human being in the history of the world has ever walked before. If you were shipwrecked there, you wouldn't be able to make it to the inside of the atoll. There's nothing around you. And the couple of guys who might have sailed past there, they would not have made their way across those coral gardens in all those secondary lagoons to get up to the apex of the atoll. And no one had been there.
On a species list, I think we're around 17 or 18 different species, of which we got GTs, bluefin, trevally, we got triggerfish, various types of grouper, got some bohar snappers.
These make great eating, but we're not gonna eat these. Spangled emperors.
Spangled emperor. Bonefish. What are those 3-spot things?
3-spot pompano.
3-spot pompano. Yep, we got a little big eye trevally about this big. Look at that thing. Isn't that cute? Yeah, and as far as like the grouper species go, we got marble grouper, saddleback grouper.
Oh my God.
Camouflage grouper, look at that.
It's like a bass that's been dressed by, who's that outdoor company who does all the camo clothing?
Mossy oak?
Yeah, it's like a mozzie oak dressed bass. Providence grouper sponsored by Mozzie Oak.
There's a wrasse right there.
Oh there's the wrasse.
Mussel snapper?
Russell
snapper. Mussel snapper.
Oh, Russell snapper.
Russell snapper, okay. We're just gonna target what we can get in front of, and the permit, it's kind of gotta be in the right place at the right time, gotta be lucky on that one, so we'll see if we cross paths with one, but yeah, I'd really love to see a bumphead parrotfish up close. Let me tell you about our boat. Built in Ontario, Canada in 1966, the ship was originally designed to support marine research expeditions in the North Atlantic. She's 141 feet long, has a beam of 28 feet, and drafts 13 feet of water. In 2009, after decades of cold water research service, the ship was sold and completely overhauled to serve in its current capacity as an oceanographic an expedition vessel in the Indian Ocean. She was renamed the dugong, a regional marine mammal that is basically a smaller version of a manatee. Topside on the dugong, we've got the bridge, the domain of the ship's experienced captain. A former South African rugby player, the captain has the know-how to address any problems encountered at sea. There are 7 staterooms, which collectively can accommodate up to 12 anglers and 4 guides. This is the kitchen, which contains some of the most technologically advanced equipment on the ship. This is a ship that was built and designed to endure all types of conditions. She's now logged thousands of hours traversing the greater Indian Ocean for a variety of research work, security support, and live-aboard fishing.
I think day 10, it's our 10th fishing day of a 2-week trip, and we've just left the midway section of the atoll. We're heading to the northern area closer to Providence Island. I can see the island right in the distance there. We've just come off our mooring where we spend the night. We'll probably be there in 20 minutes or half an hour, and it's just incredible how big the place is. You know, you can sit here and you can look out over it, and as far as the eye can see to the right, the atoll stretches, and if I were to turn around and look back that way, it goes. I can't even see the end of it there. It's just amazing that it's so big, and that we get to explore it and get to play on it. And we will never, ever, ever see all of it. It just changes all the time, you know, on every tide, on every wind, it looks different. There's more water, there's less water, there's warm water, the wind pushes, the wind affects it, the currents affect it. It just keeps going on.
Everything about this place is intense, and I don't mean just the fishing in general. It's, you know, the environment in general, as far as gear and physically and mentally. I mean, everything about this place challenges you. You know, normally when I go saltwater fishing, whether it's Christmas Island or wherever else, you can get away with fishing 80-pound fluorocarbon for GTs, whereas here we're using 130 pounds. It might seem like overkill at first, but after being here for a week and a half, it's totally understandable about why these guys use it. You know, you're catching grouper off these bommy heads or coral heads, and they pull so hard that it's almost impossible to keep them from going back into the coral. So yesterday, Tim is fighting this big barracuda, and we're just sitting there watching him deal with it, and all of a sudden I see this flash of yellow run by him, and I'm sitting there thinking, what on earth would that be? And then all of a sudden it dawns on me that it's a saddleback grouper, and a big one. So I jump out of the water and I'm wading around casting at this thing, and it's basically right at my feet, like 3 to 4 feet off my toes, and make a little cast out there, and this thing just kind of lazily swims up to it and just goes, my fly disappears. Set the hook, thing shakes its head for a couple of seconds, and then it immediately just like goes straight down into a coral head. And it was kind of game over after that. Oh. Oh.
Attack of the bumphead parrotfish today. I think I'm gonna have to just put a new leader on here, which is something which I really didn't want to do because I'm lazy.
All I know is Gerhard is obsessed with barracuda. He has been as long as I've known him. I'm not too keen on them. I enjoy them, and they're awesome predator. But lo and behold, yesterday,
I can't believe that thing didn't bite you off.
I had a massive one swim up to me.
I was watching you from like 300 yards away. I could see you like casting at it and like going into stealth mode and stripping and slower and faster and then hooking it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, it's gonna jump and it's gonna be over. And it jumped, and I radioed and I said, have you got wire on? And you're like, no wire. And I was like, I'm not even going to go over there to help him because it's not going to last. And then I kept fishing, and then like 10 minutes later, I looked back, and you've still got it on.
I had everything under control, and the fish arced around this island, and the line went right over this exposed little coral island, so the line got wrapped around there. It was either swim or lose the fish, so I swam across the channel to get to that little mound in the middle of the lagoon. It was a hell of a long swim. The line was stuck on it, so I actually swam and then sort of cranked up and brought myself towards the bommy, but I had the spear rod all over the place. But yeah, I managed to get to the little island, my salvation, and luckily everything held. Yeah, today we decided we're going to go out and look for parrotfish, bumphead parrotfish. Massive blue fish with a big bolt cutter on the front of its face. They get anywhere between 30 pounds to 100 pounds up on the flats. Extremely big fish. Definitely too big for a 9-weight. They're pretty shy. They won't eat anything with thick leader on. So about as thick as you can go is 25 pounds. And they'll still eat the fly with that. So yeah, we're gonna have our hands full. Hopefully it works out. Last night we looked at the tides, and we got a rare opportunity to get out to the eastern side. So we're going to cross over there this morning. I've never been there before myself. I don't think anybody's been there before. So we're looking forward to some virgin water and just exploring. That's what really gets me going. Just the unknown. So we can't wait to get out there and see what's happening.
Hang your coat, won't you stay a while? Just relax, take a breath, let me see that smile. Put your hand in mine. I'm to take my time. Don't wanna stand in a line, wasting all my time. Don't wanna stand in line to get to you.
So bumphead parrotfish are probably the strangest fish that you'll ever see pictures of, or target on the flats, or just fish in general. It's just extremely weird. They don't have teeth. They have like a bird beak. And they have just little slots on the side of their mouth where it's gums. And you just gotta hope that you hook them in those gums, otherwise they're gonna clip your fly off, or it's just gonna come off or something. And they don't fight anything like what a GT or a bonefish does. They're powerhouses, and they go forever. It's like hooking into a Duramax Dodge pickup truck with a ton of torque. You just can't stop it. And they continue to pull and pull and pull and pull. And it's more of, let's see how well the angler's endurance is while fighting this fish, rather than vice versa.
Just relax, take a breath, let me see that smile. Put your hand in mine. I aim to take my time. Don't wanna stand in a line, wasting all my time. Don't wanna stand in line to get to you. To get to you. To get to you. To get to you.
Just about the time you relax and get lost in the fishing, this place has a way of reminding you just where you're really at. G was onto a pretty large bumpy when we all of a sudden had a visitor. And truly there's nothing like a 60-pound fish to attract a bull shark. It was fairly obvious to everyone on the flat that I'm not the biggest fan of sharks.
A lot of sharks, sometimes you get your reef-going sharks and your ocean-going sharks that will frequent the tides, or frequent the flats, on the bigger tides, like your white tips, silver tips. They're pretty nasty sharks. Then obviously the stingrays you've got to keep an eye out for. You don't want to stand on stingrays. We've seen quite a lot this week. A couple of them with GTs on the back, which is always cool. And then some of your smaller stuff that, even though it's small, it's probably just as deadly as any of the other things out here, such as your cone shells. Generally find them more in the deeper water, but we have seen a couple that have drifted up onto the flats. One variation called the cone shell geographus, and it's deadly. You know, if it gets hold of you and it shoots a protein poison into you, there's no anti-venom, and it's tickets. You've got to always remember where you are, have that in the back of your head. The fact that there's not too many people out here that can help you or get to you.
On our last night, the crew was loading up the skiffs when one of the guards noticed a boat on the horizon. There was no response on the radio. Then, all of a sudden, the entire crew was talking pirates. This was not the way I wanted to end my trip of a lifetime. Then one of the guards recognized the crew. It was his brother-in-law. As it would turn out, they ran out of cigarettes, and they were hoping to buy some from our crew. So they tossed over the money, and in what was probably the most dangerous event of the entire trip, Mateo handed over the goods. When I said yes to this whole trip, this whole project, it felt right, and it felt like I was doing what I should have been doing. And throughout that entire trip, I felt that way. Like, this was what I was born to do. This is what I'd always wanted to do. And so I don't know if it's like a universe thing or some divine thing or you know, whatever, but you know, the entire time we were out there, from the moment we got on the airplane to when we got on the Mayas Dugong to when we set foot on the flats to when I caught my first GT, like, it all just felt like it was falling into place. I never once felt like I should have been somewhere else. Isn't there always one more fish story? On the afternoon of our third day, the camera crew had some sort of technical issue with the drone or underwater camera. So they headed back to the dugong, leaving G, Tim, and I offshore with only a GoPro.
Does it say record? Camille has just hooked onto a monster GT. The camera operator is all to our own devices, so we hope she's going to get it. We're filming this big real style.
This thing is huge.
We don't need no cameraman.
Where are you?
Just fight him like a trout now on the fly line.
Holy frick, look at that thing. Oh my god! It was unreal. I cast it out there and it's like right at my rod tip and I just see this submarine come out of nowhere and just inhale my fly. And I basically my pants at this point. And the thing takes off and my reel is screaming and hollering, making weird noises. And it was unbelievable. I never in my life imagined being able to catch something like that on a fly. We snapped a couple photos and put it back in the water quick and watched it swim away. And
Probably not a good time to tell you, G, but your fly's open.
Balls is hanging out.
My salty chocolate balls are hanging out.